Let me make sure my speakers are live. But while I'm doing that, let me go ahead and introduce everyone. Bones, will you say something real quick?
Yeah. What's up, everybody?
Ha!
How's it going?
Excellent.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
I was just making sure that my audio for you was up before we started going too far into the ether, because you know what happens, right? 15 minutes in,
Yep.
and we realize that going to no one has any, no one's heard anything you've said. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Sunday night edition. I'm not live streaming for Swugga. I'm not live streaming for Star Wars. What do you call that? Survivor. Tonight, Mr. Bones, aka the Bone Man, aka Bob.
Yep.
We've been talking about putting this together for a couple of weeks now.
Yep.
And what we're gonna do is we are going to break down everything Star Wars that we've missed out over the last forever. I used to be pretty good at streaming content when it came to Star Wars stuff,
Yep.
and we were good about it. Like every week, multiple times a week, we covered it all, and I've dropped off a bit, and Bones called me on it, and we've both just wanted to talk Star Wars. So
sure.
whether you're here live, you catch us on the replay. If you're on, you could be on my channel, on YouTube, on Twitch. Also, Bones is live streaming, so if for whatever reason we go down here, Bones has got us on his channel as well.
Yes,
so, like, this is an exciting time because there's so much in my mind that's in the air. But anyways, Bones, how are you?
Good, man. Good. I'm glad we're doing this. Like you said, we were just wanting to talk some Star Wars, and you were just the guy I thought of. I was like, man, I want to talk just straight up Star Wars, and you and I just kind of like to we'll just go off on rants, right? Not rants, but we'll just go off on topic and forget what we're even talking about because we love Star Wars so much. And I just thought it'd be a good time, and I think we're kind of in a benchmark period for Star Wars right now.
Absolutely.
And we're going to get into all that, but so I just thought what of a better time to talk about Star Wars than now. So
absolutely, I'm right there with you. So the way that we're going to break this down, I'm pulling up our show notes from like 2 weeks ago.
Not too much has changed.
No. Let's see. Oh no, that's my own channel. So Bones, while I'm bringing this up, what have you been up to? How's everything going?
Pretty good, man. Not much different. Just still living in Florida. I work at Dollar General. I mean, not the greatest job, but not too bad. And then just streaming, man. Streaming, like you said earlier, I can't find the time to almost do anything.
Yeah.
So streaming when I can. Usually Grand Arenas at a minimum I'll do.
Yeah.
But nothing too crazy, man. How about yourself?
Doing well. School year's coming to an end. I am. Oh, I'm needing a summer break for sure. Things have gone well. As you can see, I've rearranged my office. I'm no longer in my trash compactor.
I like the Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's
back there.
I tell you, man, there's nothing better than in a gas station that has its own like orbit. It pulls people in because it's such a great gas station. I love it. Every time I'm in the South, I look for a Buc-ee's.
Yeah, we came to Texas and went to them, and there's like 300 gas pumps, and we were like 248. Like that blew my mind.
Yeah.
My wife just is in love with Buc-ee's. So actually, I don't know if you saw, but I met Paul.
Did you?
He came down, and yeah, Kane from the Old Man's Cantina. We all came together and met at Pluckers.
Oh.
All the wives and everything got together and everything like that.
Dope.
So, yeah, it was pretty fun. It was a good time. Great to see. It was first time meeting Paul, so
Paul,
that was pretty neat too.
Paul is a character you have to meet in person.
I for sure.
He is not one that um, he is larger than life, and it's wonderful to be in his presence.
I
Um,
absolutely love that man. Yep.
all right, um, so this is the way that we're going to talk about. We're actually going to start off with something that I think we're all probably pretty familiar. We're going to break down season 3 of The Mandalorian. We won't go over all of it because that's way too much time. But we're just going to hit some highlights, and we're going to do some speculation as what we think of the future, and maybe talk about some actual rumors. And we're definitely going to talk about some rumors. Here in a few minutes, we are going to be joined by someone that you guys probably know pretty well, the Nev. So things are going to take a pretty dark turn. Just pessimism. But obviously we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about the Ahsoka film that's coming out, or Ahsoka movie. Sorry, not film that's coming out. We're gonna talk about where we think that's gonna go and how we think that's gonna play out. And then we're gonna talk about these new movies that have been discussed or brought up or portrayed. I don't know how you would want to call it, but announced. That's the word I'm looking for.
That's about as far as they've went.
Yeah, and that may be as far as they go, but we'll definitely get into that. And then we'll just see where the night takes us. So let's just start off. Overall, if you were to rate season 3 amongst the other two, where would it fall as far as like your enjoyment of it?
And that's what sucks is we're comparing it to the other two, right? I think if it wasn't being compared to the other two, it would be better off. I think they left on such a high note on the last one that we were expecting more and more and more.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be too mean because it wasn't as bad as everyone's giving it. I'll say like a 7. I'll give it a 7.
Okay. All right.
What about you?
And here's the thing with the season as a whole, I enjoyed it, and there were so many high moments in the season that I'm like, okay, this outshines any of the frustrating things that I was dealing with. That I was so I would but I would still give it a little lower. I'd probably say 6.5.
I was gonna say that actually too.
and it's not that I think that it was terrible, because I don't think that it was, and I don't think that it deserves a lot of the crap that it's getting. There's absolutely aspects of it that were done weirdly, oddly, but overall I think that it was a fun show with lots of moments of excitement. It told a good story. I've gone through and I've watched a lot of the things that people are frustrated about, and I think that it's because of there's moments that were missed.
Yeah, for sure.
The whole Paz Vizsla's son, getting kind of rebaptized into the order, right? They're like, I've heard a lot of people like, why is that even an issue? How is it that one person can, fly out of an atmosphere of Mandalore on one jetpack, but can't find, a pterodactyl who's, on it. And so like there's little things that I've heard, and I'm like, okay, I can understand that, and I can understand the frustration, but overall, I think that it was the high points were high enough that I don't know, they just brought me joy,
Yeah, and I like the filler. I like filler episodes because they're kind of lighthearted and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just think there was too much of that in this season. I think I don't know what I needed out of this.
Yeah.
But, if you even go back to the Mando episodes of Book of Boba Fett,
mm-hmm.
I still think those 2 episodes were better than anything we saw in season 3.
Really? Anything we've seen in season 3?
I mean, the last episode was pretty decent. I liked the last episodes. I mean, I don't know, man, because I got Luke Skywalker for a whole episode.
Yeah.
So I just keep getting this Luke. So I hope they give us something like a show down the road with Luke.
Yeah.
Because I'm just always, I love, that's the guy I grew up with.
Sure.
But I don't know where I was going with that, but I just think that there's a little too much filler. There was kind of a weird direction, like I didn't know where it was going. Right in my head canon before it came up, I thought it was going to be a season long of them just working on Mandalore, trying to take over Mandalore for
Yeah.
whatever reason, or get like I thought it was just going to be completely on Mandalore, and you know, within 2 or 3 episodes, they had already been to Mandalore. He'd already bathed in the waters. We saw there's a lot happen in every episode. I don't think that's a bad thing
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, but it just kind of the pacing was kind of weird, and I can't put my finger on it, to be
Yeah.
honest. It was just kind of weird. It had a weird feeling to it, and like I said, I didn't hate it, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't something that I was that satisfied with because I was just so excited about it. And maybe that's some of the problem was that I had all this built up in my head, expecting all this, and maybe I just expected something else.
That.
Because I like the old serials. You know how like maybe
Yeah.
Star Trek Next Generation, every
Mm-hmm.
episode was something different or a isolated story. It wasn't an
Yeah.
overarching story for the most part, or
Sure.
Hercules and Xena or X
Oh
Files
yeah.
or anything like
Yeah.
that. So I like that style, but like I said earlier, comparing it to the other two, that's not how they were being. It was like one long arc over the season, which was going to go into the next season and go in the next season, kind of like
Yeah.
what Marvel did really well in a few years back. Not so
Sure.
much now, but you
Sure.
know what I'm saying. But
So the rumor is that season 4 will actually be that serial style that you're talking about.
yeah,
And so for you, is that something that you'd be okay with?
as long as they make it like known, like that's what we're trying to go with in the future.
Yeah.
Because it just like I said, it was just kind of misleading. It was a different way of approaching it.
Sure.
They built all this up with Grogu and Luke, and I thought there was more to come with that. And there might be, and that's just what we're kind of talking about is where I don't know where we're going in Star Wars right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
We're in all kinds of different directions, right? So it's just a confusing and exciting time, but a confusing time at that. So I just don't know where they're going with it, and
Sure.
I think that they didn't know where they're going with it. I
I,
think at the end when you see him sitting there with Grogu, that's
yeah.
them kind of resetting the timeline. Gideon's gone.
Yeah.
They just kind of put everything to rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they
Mm-hmm.
have bigger plans, but they just want to get Mando where everything's done. You don't have to worry about where this person is or where that's at or the dark saber is or who owns it,
Oh
which we
my
can get
gosh.
into
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, do you kind of want to? Is there some things you wanted to talk about that happened specifically throughout
So
this?
so there's actually a lot. Like there's a few moments that we see, like the whole concept of the mythosaur. Um, we see Grogu touching the mythosaur at the very end. We see
Yeah.
Bo-Katan who's connected to the mythosaur, and it makes me wonder what the connection is going to be there. Now, the one thing that was interesting to me, and I think we're going to get this fleshed out, but we didn't get it fleshed out. I will say that I agree with you wholeheartedly on almost everything you just said, because it felt there were definite things that felt disjointed.
Yeah.
If you I've got let's see, I've got IMDb up right now, and let me see if I can. Let me just switch it real quick. Um, and one of the things that really I know I struggled with, I loved it, but I struggled with it was the Pershing episode.
Oh, okay. This was the main thing I wanted to talk about too. So
Yeah.
I'm
So
excited to hear what you have to say.
so I loved the Pershing episode. I didn't love the way, like the disconnectedness of it. It was like Bo-Katan saves Din at the end, and you're like, what's gonna happen next? And then like nothing happens next, and you're like, oh, okay. I thought that there was gonna be more to it, but then you get this whole thing with Pershing, right? It's not even like broken up, which is what we've seen in the past with when you see shows with multiple storylines. You have one storyline and then leave you on a cliffhanger, then another storyline, and then back to the first. Then you sometimes introduce a third, and then they all connect somehow at the end. We didn't see that here. This was this was uh, Book of Boba Fett introduction of Mandalorian style
For sure.
editing.
I for sure felt that too.
And as much as I loved, and I really did, I actually really loved the Pershing storyline because I love the political aspect of Star Wars. If there was a Star Wars like C-SPAN, I would watch it. Like if it was just like Senate just going about doing their daily, business, and sometimes it's just like, I don't know, like the Senate chamber and some guys in there sweeping, I'd still watch it. But like I love the political aspect of it, but this was off to me.
Yeah. Yeah, so what I liked about it, first of all, was just the scenery of Coruscant.
Mhm.
I think Coruscant's just a cool place to see in Star Wars.
Absolutely.
So, they're walking around the city, and like
Mhm.
it's just a way of Coruscant we haven't really seen, right?
Sure.
And so that part, the scenery, the cinematography, I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I'm intrigued by this cloning idea and everything. But where I lost with that episode is just I was even cool with her, and I I'm sure a lot of people saw it coming, but I didn't. Her betraying him,
Yeah.
and and that's where I lost it
Yeah.
when she turned bad, and it was just a cool chill episode that I was cool with. But then it got weird and dark, and then obviously we're getting to the end where everyone just kind of leaves her to herself to torture this man by himself.
Yeah.
Like it just didn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
Didn't get that part, and it was very horrible. I felt terrible for the guy, and I
Oh
like
yeah.
him. He's also in a show called American Gods, which I really like. So he's
Oh
a
yeah.
pretty good actor.
Who is he in American Gods? What?
Okay, so the genie, the Jin, his
Yeah.
boyfriend,
Okay. All
Um,
right.
so but okay, so the episode's over. What
Yeah.
did that have to do with anything?
Nothing.
Before or
So
after?
so let me tell you. I Nev and someone on Twitter got me to reacquaint myself with Heir of the Empire. And I read it. I started and finished it within. We gave ourselves a week, and then to like talk about it. We never actually talked about it. I didn't reach out to the other person, so that's probably just as much on me as it is anyone else. But I read him Heir to the Empire, and then I was like, all right, well, what do I do now? What do I listen to now? What do I finish the book that I was listening? Did I stop so I could read Heir to the Empire? Um, and I found an Audible. It's not exclusive, but it's essentially Timothy Zahn and his editor rereading and adding notes to Heir to the Empire, like with different sections. Okay. And
That's
it's on Audible. It was like one credit, so like I don't know, like $10 or something. But there were a few things that were interesting to me, because Timothy Zahn is in this little section is talking about I don't know. He's talking about different things, and one of the things that he talks about is on Coruscant, that mountaintop, right? So the mountaintop that Pershing and the spy or whatever go to, it's he mentions it. He mentions how when he wrote Heir to the Empire, it wasn't that. I mean, Coruscant was mentioned,
right.
I don't think we even saw Coruscant in the original trilogy, did we?
I don't think so. I think that when the special edition came around, that's the first time we ever saw Coruscant, canon, in canon, because at the end they're celebrating.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
That's the only time we ever saw Coruscant. That's the first time we saw it.
Yeah, and then we go back to the prequel trilogy, and obviously we see it there. But but it was interesting because Timothy Zahn wrote Heir to the Empire with nothing. Like he wrote it in '93, and there wasn't a whole lot of material out. The Wizards of the Coast, I think, was the company that had given him material to kind of like use and look at. But he talked about how there would be a city with like the higher ups. I don't know. It was just an interesting section of the book to read, and him specifically talking about that mountain in this moment. And so it was something that.
So in a way, he has formed canon. In a way, I guess, because people are taking a lot of influence from these old books too. So
which is which is where I think that we'll be seeing him move forward, right? I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Timothy Zahn influence over the next couple.
What would you think about him writing some scripts for shows and stuff? I think they should get him involved.
He is,
honestly.
So that's the thing, and we'll talk about this here in a moment. But he is, I don't know, heavily involved, but he's involved in the Ahsoka project. He's met with Dave Filoni. He's met with Jon Favreau, and he's it's in good hands. Is the concept?
I never even thought about that.
Yeah, he essentially came out and said he did an interview. It's only in French, and it was translated. But like he did an interview where he's like, "Look, I really wouldn't trust anyone else to do this, right? To get Thrawn right." But we'll talk about that here in a minute. Here's the important thing, and this is I don't know. I want to keep talking about the Mandalorian, but at the same time, like here's the thing: when it comes to Pershing, the big and important thing that Pershing was doing, it's in that moment when he's it's what we see here in this thumbnail right here. Pershing is delivering the speech, right? During this speech, he shows a picture of a double helix, and then he talks about taking gene splices from 2 different hosts, right? Now, I think that's what we see, or we saw with Grogu. Din Grogu. During his cloning phase, right? So Pershing was able to splice stuff from Moff Gideon, because he would have to know that Moff Gideon was cloning clones, right? He would have had to have known it. That's like his thing. Then he would have also had to know what Grogu was important for, because we know that he knew that, right? That's not just a random thing.
Which makes me think that all of Yoda's species, does it have a name? Yoda species?
It does not have a name. The Yoda species is called the Yoda species.
I think that he probably knows that every species has force. They're all force sensitive, is what I'm guessing, is why they went for him in particular.
Yeah,
Grogu, that is. I mean, that's cool if he gets involved, though.
Yeah. So, hold on, let me see one thing. Inbox, focus.
Crafting weight. I am not going to eat a mayo sandwich today. Please, not today.
Please tell me that that's not a legitimate thing that you've done before.
So for years, I haven't been able to redeem channel points, and I did them the other day. Yeah. And for like 60,000, they can make me eat a mayonnaise sandwich, which I don't know why I did that, but then I realized that.
Did you eat the whole thing?
They haven't redeemed it yet, but I forgot that most of the people have been with me for the last couple of years. Probably they have way more than 60,000.
Yeah.
So they're like, a lot of them are like, we're gonna make them eat 6 in a row or something, but I'll do it. I'll do it for you guys.
How do we? I'm trying to add Nev. Nev has started joining us. Can you add him?
Let me see here.
Because
I don't see him anywhere.
Hold on. Oh, I think I just kicked. Gotta love my live streams. I totally just kicked the Bones. Nev.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got the Nev.
Well, that's the most important part, isn't it?
I mean, is it though? Is it? Let's see. Bones, can you still hear me? No, you can't. Crap. Nev, how do I add another person to our stream here?
See if I can.
I mean, what would a Going Nerdy live stream be without copious amounts of technical difficulties? Join call.
Hello?
Nev, are you with us? Are we all here?
You just got to turn your cameras on.
Nope.
All
You
right.
got to turn your camera on, Nev.
My camera is on.
I don't like your attitude, Nev. All right. All right. Let's pop you out.
See,
Hold on, now all my
dude,
stuff's
you
messed
I know.
you should know this. Yeah,
I
you
should
know
know
this
this.
stuff's bad.
I should know this. I blame Nev entirely. I blame him entirely. So Nev.
Well, it was a more user-friendly user interface. That's why people, originally switched to Zoom.
Yeah, because it's better. What is this? Let's
Okay, now where are you at? I can't
block
find
that.
you, isn't it?
Oh, Nev. So tell us, the Nev.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts here?
On what? Oh, I've not been available to listen to the entire conversation.
Totally good.
Only a bit of it, like. So, but you were talking about
right
reading.
now-
You were talking about reading Heir to the Empire.
So, but we didn't want to get ahead of ourselves too much. But give us your take on the Mandalorian season 3.
Just yeah. It entertained me. Am I as passionate for it as some other people? Probably not.
Yeah.
It wasn't a satisfactory conclusion for me.
Okay.
Why
not? Why not?
Because the Mandalorian was sold to me in season 1 as, here's our main protagonist. Everything is going to revolve around him.
Mm-hmm.
He'll go on some journey. He'll go on some adventures. Baby Yoda was, maybe a bigger hit than they anticipated.
Sure.
But that's what spin-offs are for.
Mm-hmm.
What used to happen is, so Mandalorian season, Mando kicks off, brilliant, wonderful, that's great. Here's our protagonist, and then along comes Yoda, Baby Yoda, and everyone wants that. The sensible thing would have been, right, we need to spin, we have a trajectory with the Mandalorian. Here's something else that we can market. We need to do a spin-off quickly. Why don't we put Baby Yoda in a TV show of their own where they're other rescued younglings are being trained to be Jedi. So I'm just talking about the story's irrelevant, but you would spin it off,
Sure.
right? You wouldn't then veer off or add characters that it's like, oh, well, we'll add this character and then we'll kind of veer off this one and more onto this one. It's like, well, that, no, just give them their own show and you have interactions between the two shows. A perfect example of this working perfectly was Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel.
Sure.
2 separate storylines going on, with their own subplots, but still allowing for, you would get crossovers. You would get characters from Angel going on to Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Buffy the Vampire Slayer characters going on to Angel. But it all met, and that's how it worked. Popular character, everybody likes this character. Joss Whedon, what do you do? We need something for this character. Give this character a spin-off. No killing them off. They're getting their own show, and it was hugely successful.
It was.
And I felt that was what the Mandalorian was sold to me as. Here's the protagonist, and you're going to be following him for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. There are many shows, there's a protagonist. You go with the protagonist, and that's how it was sold. And season 2 and season 3 have moved him further and further away from that. I mean, he's effectively been reset, but now he has now he has Grogu with him. So it's like they still, they just did it. They did the marketing wrong. They should have spun it off, but. Then obviously you interject the Bo-Katan, the Mandalorian stuff. I mean, that I wasn't really surprised. I did hear you talking about the style, how you felt the style of that was, and I feel the same way. That whole Bo-Katan Mandalore thing felt more like the Book of Boba. You know how?
Mhm.
So we're watching the Book of Boba, and then all of a
Absolutely.
sudden it's like it's the Mandalorian, and we're like, hang on a minute, I thought I was watching the Book of Boba. Now I'm watching the Mandalorian, and then it goes back to the Book of Boba, right? I think with season 3 of Mandalorian. So we've got the Mandalorian, and then all of a